Hello, everyone, and welcome to another horror review. Well, here we are, start of a new week, nearly the start of a new month, and of course, what better way to begin with another movie? Um, I've been this, I meant to check this one out for a while. I remember when it came out, and the usual. We've talked about this before, but flipping streaming and things being available, and not available, and uh, streaming services charging absolute rip-off prices for home premieres. I.e., you rent the movie once and you're paying near 20 quid, which is ridiculous. I absolutely refuse to do that. As much as I support art and the film industry and don't believe in piracy, I'm not paying that amount of money. I'm not a complete idiot. I know there's evidence to say otherwise, but I try to be reasonably sensible with my earnings. But yeah, so this is the third part in the Conjuring series, and what is it, about the 11th or 12th movie in the Conjuring universe, made by Atomic Monster, James Wan's company. Yeah, this was a decent entry. I wasn't too fussed on the second one. I don't know what it was. The second one seemed a bit too focused on the jump scares and effects that kind of took me out of the story a bit. First one, obviously enjoyed it. Took me God, when was that? That was years ago, but it took me in this world. Really enjoyed it. Some of the other movies outside of this, not so much. Kind of hit and miss. The Nun series I wasn't too fussed on. Annabelle, I think I like the second one more. What else was there? There's a whole bunch all tied in with this. I suppose I may qualify from the start. I have no idea, had no idea who Ed and Lorraine Warren were. I know this is based on a real life couple. Not in that stuff. I'm not into the whole, especially American occultists. We would look at them across the pond when the odd time they'd appear on RTV, and you just be like, "Who are these people?" Genuinely no interest. I come from a country where thousands and thousands of years of history. We should be tripping with ghosts. We should be bumping into them everywhere we turn, from prehistoric times onwards, and yet somehow we don't. And Americans bumping Americans bumping into ghosts every other minute. Very strange, but that's culture for you. That's the mentality. Makes for some good stories. What I do enjoy, though, I have to say, Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, their betrayal of this couple is what kind of drew me in. They've played that really steadfast, loving couple. They're a team. They've been through the mill, but it's never tested really the relationship on each other, and that's you don't see that much on the big screen. Especially TV. TV has couples falling apart at the first hurdle. The first thing happens, they instantly turn on each other, and the whole thing as well of being afraid to make the protagonist likable, and therefore have some stakes in the game. And that seems to be a pattern lately, where this story has them. They believe in what to do. They're fighting the fight. They're together. They're a family, and the fact that that can be used against them, or the fear of losing one another, makes them stronger, and it makes the dynamic more interesting. I like to see that, because at the end of the day, we love horror, we love the gruesome stuff, but you need the positivity. What's the point? You may as well it's the whole thing of, you may as well lie down the road and let the cars run you over if you've no purpose in living. Where this series shows people with purpose and life and love, and that makes a good backdrop, or opposite to the horrific side of things, of pure evil, malevolence, a hunger, because that's, in the sort of classical sense, evil is a hunger. It's the jealousy of what people have, more, at the toxic side of things. Like, nothing wrong with being envious. Envy is what spurs you on. If you see somebody has something you want a bit like yourself, then you strive to work and build and create your own. But when it goes into jealousy, that's where it becomes toxic and madness, and that's what this kind of shows. Evening, Chris. How are you? Welcome. Thanks for joining as always. Good to see you, mate. Literally just started here. I'm just setting the scene for this movie and why I enjoy this franchise. And yeah, you need to see that. You need that positivity, and you need that positivity to be challenged as well. There need to be stakes in the game, or else what's the point in the fight? Where I think some of the blander horror, the lazier horror, instantly makes the protagonists, basically they make them unlikable because they don't want you to get upset when the antagonist just, kills them. We see that a lot with slasher movies. When I talked about Megan, we saw that. Maybe that's because it's for a younger audience, and they obviously didn't want younger people getting upset because what was that? It was only like 15 or something rated. I know kids are quite fragile today, poor little sods. Uh, but yeah, this is showing you with actual uh, people with belief, and it's interesting as well. Like I'm no fan of the Catholic Church, as you know that, or any church. Uh, but for once, you're not seeing the winding mechanisms. You actually see, okay, this is real. This is we're not hiding this. We're not covering it up. We're not denying it. We're in for the fight. So they go through the process. They're part of a chain. It's not antagonistic. They're trusted. So when they say this needs to be an exorcism, it becomes an exorcism. Um, that's actually quite refreshing to see in this sort of genre. Now, not my favorite. I like possession movies. I like demons as a monster. Demons are intelligent. They're manipulative. They have purpose. They have personalities. They compete with each other as well as with the human race. That's when you've got a thinking enemy. I prefer give me a demon any day to funny enough, it came up as a question earlier on about questions about the vampire genre. And what I'm really fed up with is this whole it's just a virus. And they've done it with vampires, werewolves, uh, zombies, and they've kind of all lumped them together. And it's just this homogenous blandness of boredom. And these unthinking like machines that are powered by uh powered by viruses. It's not you don't have an enemy anymore. You don't have a thinking evil being with purpose, and that's terrifying. When you have somebody completely rational going about their purpose, why they want to destroy the world, why they want to destroy you, that is more terrifying than some mindless beast that you can outrun or find a way around, or just reacts an instinct. That's not to me. That's not scary. That's just you may as well. That's just get out in the jungle, and everything out in the jungle is trying to kill you anyway, and just bob it into some creature, and you just learn not to do that. you know, that's that's the equivalent to me. I don't find it. It becomes a nature documentary rather than horror. But demons, on the other hand, demons have always been portrayed as they revel in what they are. They absolutely adore the carnage and the chaos that they cause. And it's back to that whole they're jealous of the living world, they're jealous of the earthly plane, and they can only get glimpses into it through willing hosts. And that whole dynamic, I don't think I'll ever get bored with it. I always get bored with young priest and old priest walking into a bedroom. That's done and dusted 100 times over. Yeah, You've no, they're afraid. Um, if they have a popular character, they're terrified of wiping them out. Now, let's talk about Stranger Things. Yes, first tangent off this stream. Let's do it. We love this. And if you come here, you love it too. Don't deny it. So, Stranger Things, the first series was phenomenal. I'll not lie, I loved it. I actually had a feeling of dread. The Demigorgon, when it was sneaking around, it was like a serial killer. It was a hungry beast, and it said they're not my favorite sort of creatures, but there was something. They managed to make it that it was not just an opportunist. It wasn't an alligator that just snaps up opportunities. This was a hunter, and we didn't fully understand it. The character of 11, I believe, had her story arc in the first series. That was it. That's all she needed to do. But it took off. It got popular. It became phenomenal. And back again, when I was talking about Scare Package, this whole yearning for the 80s, that's why this has become popular. That's an example of younger ones today that they haven't had what we had. And that's not me just being an old guy, because I love modern technology. I love what we have now and what we've developed. It's a brilliant tool. It's a brilliant method of communication. It's a brilliant method of expression, which I would have loved to have had when I was younger. Especially I did have a bit of a creative side. No way that if I had this when I was younger, I'd have been on YouTube for 20 plus years. No problem. And I think I would have developed. I was a bit of a late starter, in terms of growing into myself. This is definitely, on a personal level, giving me a confidence and a way to express myself that young ones, I'm glad to have it, but they haven't had the balance of the other side of the coin. They haven't had the hanging out with mates, the awkward conversations, the having to push yourself forward, the joys of queuing up for something, the physicality of owning something. That's kind of all gone by the wayside. The only thing they really do now is to get the box phone, you know what I mean? The latest shiny box, the new letter and digit does exactly the same bloody thing. And then they get the new shiny box, and there's really not, you know what I mean? There's nothing to it. That's not the same as, queuing up for the latest record or going to the movies together. It's a completely different experience. So I can understand why that blew up. But once again, there were consequences in the first one. There was characters that were killed. But then they brought in season 2, and it just went to absolute rat shit. It just went dumb. There was no stakes whatsoever. None of them. And like you said, Chris, the cast just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we know in any good slasher, they're cannon fodder. They're meant to be. And the creatures got crazier, but nobody got wiped out. Next season's out. There's 4 now. God, the third one just, God, it put me off. But I heard good things about the fourth one. Check back in. It was all right. It wasn't fantastic. But once again, there's no stakes. You need they bring in the new character. Didn't they do that in the third one as well? They bring in the new character, and the new character gets killed because they're afraid to touch the core ones. They did that in bloody Game of Thrones as well. They got to the point where they were terrified. It started off with great guns, but nobody was safe. You didn't know from episode to episode who was going to get wiped out unless you'd read the books beforehand. But then it got to the point, and I think even the author was afraid to kill his favorite characters. So the integrity of that got lost. With this, because it's a small group, the Warren family, there's 3 of them. So that makes it easier, I think, to not kill them, but at the same time, the stakes are there. Now, we start off with this movie, and they're taking part in an exorcism. They get called down. They were doing an investigation. They made the call. The priest arrives. They were going. Young lad he's in the full throes. The demon, reveals itself. They couldn't get the wheel out of the church. The priest gets knocked out. Ed decides he's going to carry out the exorcism. Lorraine, Lorraine, I was going to call her the actress's name. Lorraine helps him, and the only way they got the demon out was by the older brother offering himself, and then Ed has a heart attack. So actually has a proper cardiac arrest. That's stakes. Ed then wakes up a month later in hospital. He's been out treatment, but he's been in hospital for a month. That's high stakes. You don't get that with a lot of movies. They just kind of get roughed up a bit and walk out afterwards. Which here you actually have the ramifications of he spent a month in hospital and he's still on a cane. He's still weak. He's vulnerable, and you see him actually having it because he's used to being the protector, and he loves his wife and obviously doesn't want any harm to her, but still he's married a strong woman, so she's no problem stepping up. She always did, but he feels bad because he's not that she's stepping up, but he feels like he's lesser than, he can't protect her the same. And that all gets played out. So there's stakes, there's ramifications, there's change in relationship because of the encounter. You don't see that. And this is a movie. Like, there's TV shows you'll not see that for about 6 seasons. That's why I don't like TV. And I find it really hard to get invested in TV shows because, nothing happens for like 2 seasons. And it just gets more and more filler. And then it writes itself into a circle. And then they don't know what to do with the characters. And the same characters and protagonists and antagonists keep bouncing against each other, and one never gets it up their hand because they have to keep they have to keep the next season going. It's I'm not a fan of TV and stuff, but movies have been guilty of that too. They're terrified once they find their draw. Like, they're not interested in storytelling. That's been obvious for a while. They're not interested in that. They just want the shiny lights. They just want people to, forget what you've seen, flash you with effects. You go in the cinema, you watch it, you leave again, you forget what you've watched, but then you're ready for the next thing. That's all they want from you. It's a sad state for movies to be in. I'm glad there's still movies like this. And I know this has been out a wee while. When did this get released? 2021. That's, well, there you go, 2 years. Not that bad. It just popped up on Amazon. I thought, oh, right, I meant to watch this for ages. I'd actually forgotten about it. And just, you get busy and you're looking for stuff, but you're not. You're just kind of seeing what pops up first and you go with it. So this one kind of fell away for a while. But and this isn't them just traveling from case to case. We end up coming back to the story. So the older brother, Arnie, the older brother Arnie, they kind of carry on after a month and it's gone quiet. But Arnie and his girlfriend, they're working, they're living in a dog shelter and they kind of work there as well, paying the rent. It's not bad. They're friends with the landlord, it's all good. And then the demon decides to show itself, and Arnie ends up killing his landlord stroke friend. And that's it was done during daylight as well, which is always cool for a horror movie. A horror movie that can produce a terrifying scene during daylight is always good, because the lazy trope is wait till it's dark, ooh, spooky woo, and that's it. And you wait the morning and everything's safe. That's okay sometimes, but true horror is like it can happen anytime, anywhere, and you don't know where you're safe. This is a bit like a medieval horror. Was it the second one where they tried to plead the case of demonic possession? I think it was the second one or the third one where the busy the defense is that the murderers possessed by demons. They might have done in the first one. God, I can remember. It's such a while ago. No, it wasn't the first one. Didn't go to court. It was, I think it was the second one or something. But anyway, I'm going off on the tangent again. But yeah, this is then brought up that for the defense is that he's possessed by a demon. Funnily enough, they didn't really go into the whole resistance of it. It was very, one thing about this world, it's very accepting of this is the way it is. The Warrens are believed. They did it actually with the defense lawyer. Went, oh sure, come round to our house for dinner, and we'll show you some of our exhibits. Blah blah blah. And then you see her the next day, and she's like, shaking, and that was a wee bit of comedy. It was like they're so blasé about it. Just reminds me of Poltergeist, where the family are just like, oh yeah, there'll be another one second, and the actual paranormal investigators are breaking themselves, just going, oh, what the hell is this? And they're just like, yeah, that's one of our ghosts. It's kind of like that. Yeah, come on around to our house, and then you see her absolutely terrified. That was funny, and really the only moment of levity in the movie, because this is a very tense, drama as much as anything else. What would then find out is during their investigations when they're looking for proof, in the house where Arnie lived and he killed. No, they went back to the original house where the possession was. They went underneath it, and this is one of the scenes, played up a wee bit, but Ed didn't want Lorraine to go into the house. He wanted to do it. And she powers on ahead, and then they find the totem. They find that an actual artifact, a ritual artifact, has been placed. So essentially, the house was cursed. So I think this is, and it's not often to do this, especially with possession movies and that, but when you actually have an antagonist. So in this case, it was a satanic cult, the Order of the Ram. You've actually got a witch acting against them. So this is, and it has to be done really carefully, or else it goes into schlockiness. When you have someone portraying a witch or a warlock and working dark magic as such, as it's traditionally known, it can go really bad. If you lean too much into the whole goth thing, then it's just going to be absolutely shit. Because goths, let's be honest, are pointless creatures. They're slap a bit of lipstick on. They're just bland, boring people who, they're not really much about them. They're just a fashion statement, and they're very conformist. They're actually more conformist than like what you class as conservative people. I just find it funny. So as long as you don't go there, and you meet a serious, and you portray a serious practitioner of the craft, and I think they did really well with this one. She was brilliant. In fact, she almost didn't look human at the start, and this is where Lorraine does her, mind walks to investigate the other realm and use their psychic abilities. And this is where they tried to find out what happened. So they'll go to the morgue. In exchange for information on a similar case, they have to help a county sheriff find a missing person. Excuse me for getting coughs. And this is all played out, but this is where she actually encounters the enemy. And the whole thing just it takes on a new level. And this is what makes this an interesting story. Like the old priest, young priest has been done to death. The, cast the demon out has been done to death. You need to find new ways. So the demon was just a tool at the end of the day. The demon was summoned. She promised the demon a soul. And there's a certain ritual, there's a certain sequence of events has to go through to achieve this. I think that's interesting as well. They made it the stake of one soul was the prize, and how they got the soul was interesting. It wasn't just kill as many people as possible and I'll be satisfied. Though there's laid down criteria, there's certain ways, there's things I have to do. The person has to commit murder, then suicide, and that's how the soul is, harvested. Very specific about that. So it raises the stakes on both sides, because what we find out is the witch, once once you enter into the pact, you're essentially bartering with your own soul. So if you don't make the offering, you're next. So we actually have a thinking antagonist here who has, for the sake of gaining more power, has put their own soul on the line, so they have a stake in the game. And that is what makes this interesting. And it's stories like this where both sides have something to gain and something to lose, and it's a battle. That's where it comes together. When you just have mindless things roaming about and they're easily defeated, and just none of the characters are at risk, and there's no ramifications. It's the old Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. Those two bash each other about like the Terminators. Those two bash each other about and throw each other over things, and they both shake it off afterwards. Barely have a scratch, and yet you see Michael Myers like lift people off the ground, physically manhandle them, squish their heads into things. Stronger people that should be stronger than him, and yet Laurie can take it and dish it back, and it's just there's no stakes in the game, and you're just like, what's the point? Like, Terminator 2 was cool in the fact that it did it for the first time, but then the other 20 Terminator movies that did exactly the same thing over and over again, it became boring. It's like watching what do you call that? Robot Wars. When they've got all the rules, and then the robots just kind of bash into each other, and there's nothing really at stake unless something comes loose. Not very exciting. But here you have the Warrens. They know they are enemies of hell. It's not that they're just, virtuous people or whatever, but they're actually active combatants in the war. So hell has a vested interest in harvesting these two for revenge, if nothing else. If not only just to take them off the board as enemy combatants, but for pure spite and revenge that torment them afterwards. That's great stake. Then you've got the antagonist, the witch, who essentially has to do this. She's entered in this bargain. If she doesn't fall through, she's the one that's going to get it. There you go. You have an interesting dynamic. And this is played through, and we'll find out about her backstory, how she came to be, how the forbidden resources were gathered, how they had to go and find, how to get rid of the curse and all that. Like, it kind of it gets quite tense and gets quite physical as well and active, which is cool. It's good to get a mix of not just the supernatural, which Lorraine does quite well, but then the physical danger of, well, I'm just going to smash your head in with a brick, that sort of thing. Yes, we can play the battle of spiritual will and stuff, but in the end, if I had a gun, I'd shoot you. That's where it got down to. All in all, I enjoyed this. I did. Like I said, I have no interest in the actual real world. They all show a bit of, well, these movies, they all show a bit of the like real footage from actual TV interviews and stuff. I tend to flick off at that point. Just reason being, I've just no interest in it. I like these two as the characters they portray. I like the actors. I like the universe. Some of it can be a bit, I'm interested to see what comes next. They'll probably have, like, they can do a load of these if they wanted. I think very sensibly they leave it every couple of years before putting another sequel out. Because this isn't like a trilogy or anything. This is almost like episodal. So this franchise is episodal, so it can go from adventure to adventure, because that's the way it's kind of portrayed. So I don't mind that, and that's why I think this has been long standing, and that's why you can have the spin offs because there's a story within a story and a backstory. So there's enough material there. I like the new direction that Atomic Monster and Blumhouse are going. I was a bit skeptical, but Megan kind of brought me out a little bit. It wasn't a terrible movie. Good self aware. It'll be interesting to see what the next Conjuring is going to be like under this new merger. I'll say that. I have a funny feeling, especially when James Wan's concerned, if it's one of his original properties, he's not going to want to mess with. So I don't think we're going to lose the tone, and I think that was part of the agreement that they kept their own creative energies, but the shared distribution, which was quite clever, especially in this day and age. As you know, as creators, we struggle. It's a flipping ocean out there, and each one of us would try to buoy each other up. We try to support each other. We try to give each other exposure, and it's bloody hard work just to make the you spend hours making content. It'd be nice if people can enjoy it. So this, when even large companies and long-standing properties in Hollywood have to do it because of the amount of stuff out there, you don't feel as bad. You don't feel as if you're isolated from the problem. So that's interesting to see. I don't want to spoil this movie. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I know it's been around a wee bit now. Most people who intended to see it will, but if you're interested, it's good to visit. Uh, there you go. That's really all I said. Like I said, I enjoyed the movie. It's good third part. I thought it was better than part two. You know, we normally like you get the third movie and it's kind of went the other way. No, this is actually this is improved. It's brought back to its roots of like drama centric. So that's good. Long may it continue. Looking forward to seeing what's happening next. Let's see what's happening this week. We have God, we've not much on this week. Flipping last week was bonkers. It's like feast or famine in this show. Flipping last week it was like something happening every other day and people on and stuff. Really had a really fun time yesterday. Have to say with Steve on joining Cameron and I, that was a fun time. It's great to get an extra dynamic into the mix and just an extra person to riff with and have a bit of fun and talk about movies. It's always a laugh. Uh, Next week, obviously, Chris and I are going to be on. We're going to be running the first part of Call of Cthulhu, The Lightless Beacon. So that's going to be interesting to do the character creation, get the motivation behind the story. And we're going to do a wee bit differently. We're going rather than doing like a 3-4 hour segment, we're going to break them down to 1 hour. It's almost like mini bites. So that's going to make me as a keeper, have to think on my toes because it's easy to get comfortable and think, oh, I've got 3 hours to drag a story out. No, I've got an hour to drag out a segment and make it come to a satisfying cliffhanger or segment so we're ready for the next part. So that's going to be interesting to play with. And maybe those that aren't too sure about role playing games, maybe a shorter version might entice you in. I know it can be quite intimidating. If you want to look at something for the first time, you see a 4 hour movie or a 4 hour stream, and like, bloody hell, I'm not taking all that on at once. And it's nothing to do with the difficulty of the game. It's just everyone gets them. Once you get into it, everyone gets invested. And that's why they go on for as long as they do. But yeah, it'll be interesting. That'll be next week with a couple of movies we're going to talk about. I had to postpone Let the Right One In. Unfortunately, New Zealand got absolutely battered with a tornado, and Andy had some stuff come up last minute, which was a shame. And him and his fiance were going to be on, so we're going to actually have a couple of people. But we've put that forward for a couple of weeks. That'll be cool to happen. I will be on Eva Live again. I think we're going to do another Army of Darkness in the next couple of weeks. And then Adam and Cameron and I are talking about doing another Clive Barker story. I think we're going to do the Midnight Meat Train. I think we're talking about that, so we'll get that organised this month. And as usual, we're starting to get more submissions in again for Horrific Tales, so we'll get that out. Of course, check out the website. You're more welcome to get involved. Always looking for submissions. I will, of course, be watching more cheesy movies during the week. You know me, that has to happen. So I'll definitely be popping on. Cameron, I think, might be on tonight, later on. I think he said he's going to try and review one of the horror pack movies. I think he's another one to unbox as well. February's to finish up, so I'm sure he's on at some point as well. So we're busy. We're keeping going. So make sure you subscribe. Click on the notifications, whatever platform you're watching is on. Essentially, do the typey clicky things. And until next time, folks, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.